Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I know it's an ancient text, but what's incredible is how it offers this amazing framework for the most common internal battles we all face right now. Things like anxiety, self-doubt, that feeling of being stuck. It's truly a guide for our modern minds.
So let me start with a pretty wild question. What if your biggest struggles weren't actually real? What if all that anxiety, that nagging self-doubt, that feeling that you're just not getting anywhere, what if it was all just based on a misunderstanding? The Gita unfolds as this intense conversation between a warrior, Arjuna, and his divine guide, Krishna, literally on the edge of a massive battle. And Arjuna is completely paralyzed by despair. This battlefield crisis, it's a perfect metaphor for our own inner war.
All right, so where does all this struggle actually come from? Well, according to the Gita, it all points back to a single hidden source. And that source is right here, on the battlefield, inside our own minds.
The text introduces this really powerful concept called a root thought pattern. Think of it like this. It's that first time in your life you felt deeply powerless or limited. That feeling, that cognition, it gets locked in. It's like a piece of software that starts running in the background, shaping your feelings, your behavior, and your reactions for years, maybe even decades. In a way, the text is saying this is the very birth of the mind as we know it, the conditioned mind.
And we're told there are three main flavors of these patterns: self-doubt, self-hatred, and self-denial. Now think about the villains in the Gita, the Kauravas. Their every move was fueled by this deep-seated belief that they were somehow failures, which created this constant, desperate need to destroy everyone else just to feel okay about themselves. These are the enemy soldiers inside our own heads, fueling all of our internal conflict.
So these root patterns, they create this state that the book calls incompletion. You can think of it as any kind of emotional baggage, regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, that literally builds a wall between you and right now. It stops you from being fully present. And it's a really vicious cycle, right? The patterns cause this feeling of incompletion, and that feeling just reinforces the patterns, leaving you feeling restless and totally disconnected from your own life. But here is where things start to shift. The Gita doesn't just lay out the problem, it gives us this profound solution. And it all starts with a complete, radical change in perspective. A fundamental truth about who you really are, way beyond the illusion of all your struggles.
Krishna gives Arjuna this absolutely beautiful analogy. He says, look, your true self is just wearing this body like a set of clothes. And just like clothes, the body and our life circumstances, they're temporary. They're going to get worn out. But the self, your essential nature, that's eternal. It just moves on to the next experience.
And that brings us to the Gita's most mind-bending claim. Death isn't the end. It's just an illusion, a transition. See, according to the text, so much of our suffering comes from this one big mistake. We identify with the temporary clothes, our body, instead of our eternal, indestructible spirit. The ultimate truth here is that your real nature is divine.
Okay, that's a huge idea. If our true nature is divine, how do we actually live like that? This is where we get to move from just philosophy to real, concrete practice. The Gita lays out this actionable framework, these 4 principles, or tattvas, that let us unlock some very specific inner powers to completely change how we experience reality.
This table breaks it all down. Each principle you practice unlocks a specific inner power, or Shakti. So let's just walk through it. First up, integrity. This is about making sure your words are totally aligned with your inner truth. When you do that, you unlock the power of your words to actually start shaping your reality. Then there's authenticity. This means aligning your thoughts with your highest self. That unlocks the power of focused thought, the power to create. Third is responsibility. This is huge. It's about seeing yourself as the source of your experience, not a victim of it. That unlocks this incredible power to feel deeply connected to everything. And finally, enriching. This is about making your life a contribution to yourself and to others. And this unlocks the ultimate power, the power to manifest the reality you truly want.
And this all leads us to the master technique. This is how you deal with those root patterns we talked about at the beginning. The source calls it the science of completion, a direct, powerful method for breaking free from the grip of the past.
Now, to really get this science, you first have to see the massive difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is that automatic knee-jerk thing, right? It's driven by your old patterns, and it always leaves you feeling powerless. But a response? A response comes from that space of responsibility and presence we just talked about. It's a conscious choice. See, when you react, you just create more of that incompletion. When you respond, you create completion.
So how do you actually do it? Well, the process is actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, you just recognize when one of those negative patterns, an incompletion, is starting to take over. Step 2, you consciously decide not to let your body give in to it. Don't clench your fists in anger, don't tense up with fear. Step 3, you just watch the emotion. Witness it without judging it or trying to push it away. And then finally, step 4, you just internally declare, I am complete with this pattern. And that's how you break the cycle.
When you put all this together, the philosophy and these techniques, you get to the ultimate point. This isn't just about feeling a little bit better. It's about giving you the actual power to consciously rewrite your own future.
I mean, the text really hammers this home. This quote says it all. The whole reason enlightened beings even show up is to remind us of this one simple truth. Your deepest insecurities, that self-doubt, that self-hatred, they are not facts. They are just patterns. They are not the truth of who you are.
And that leads us to the absolute best news in this whole explainer. The identity that you've built around your own limitations, that's not actually you. You are not the story that your self-doubt has been telling you. You are something so much bigger, so much greater. And the promise of the Gita is that you have the power to realize it.
So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. Which one of those root patterns, self-doubt, self-hatred, or self-denial, might be running things in the background of your life? And maybe more importantly, if you really applied this science of completion, what would a life of true presence and real power actually look like for you?